Alrighty. Hello, y'all. It is me, Teacher Queen, here again. We are on lesson 7. Today we're going to be talking about lesson 7 is called Blinded View. I'm going to, hopefully, you'll understand why I titled it that. Um, I took a minute to regroup, reset, and just kind of repurpose myself. So that took some time and spent some time with my family. Enjoyed going to my first home, which is Houston, Texas, and spent some quality time with my family and friends and grandkids, and just had a really down home centering, which I needed. I currently live, if you don't know, I currently live in California, in Northern California to be exact. And it's always good to go home to your roots. My grandmother used to say, or my grandparents used to say, don't forever forget where you came from and always be grateful for that. And so that is what my trip home was. It was a way to appreciate and also to show gratitude that what had been where I was raised and where I grew up. All right, y'all. Let me put my timer on so we can go ahead because I don't want to waste your time because I don't like nobody wasting mine. All right. So we're talking about lesson 7, the blinded view. Last time we were talking about USSR and Russia and their totalitarianism and authoritarianism, I think is authoritarian. I almost had it. Authoritarianism. Yeah, these words sometimes they get all conjumbled in my mouth, but that's okay because that's the whole part of it is that getting past the fear of saying something wrong or not having everything ever so perfectly or to be an expert. But I have never claimed to be that. I'm an educator and I love learning. And so this is my way of encouraging you to learn, get that knowledge for yourself and for those that you love. I do believe knowledge is power. And the more ignorant we are about certain things, the more fear that will manifest. But if I have knowledge and experience about something or know someone else who has experienced it, then it takes away from that fear to where that fear is not a stronghold. All right, so we're going to talk about communism. I said before that communism is I say an economic stronghold. That's my own verbiage for communism, but I'm going to read you out of the dictionary. Y'all know. Oh, let me tell you what book we're coming from. If this is your first time joining us, we are We the People, coming from the book of All the People. Can y'all see that? By Joy Hakim. This is the 4th edition, A History of Us, meaning us in the U.S., and how that history it correlates to our history. A country, I have heard that we are a very infant country or newborn. Maybe we're in our toddler stage by now compared to other countries and governments. And so we are very new at this. However, there's a saying in my community that say, I may be new to this, but I'm true to this. Like it may be unfamiliar territory. However, I'm going to get whatever I need to make sure I stay true to what I firmly believe. All right. So I'm going to stop preaching to y'all. Okay. So let's look at the word communism. It says communism is a political theory derived from Marx, advocating class war and leading to a society in which all property is publicly owned and each person is paid and works according to his or her needs or abilities. I say that is an economic stronghold, which is my own verbiage, because it causes someone else to determine what you are able to get and you uh, what your needs are. And I don't think any other human being has the right to decide what my needs are and what my abilities are. Like, because you don't see the significance in my needs and abilities, you only think that I should have less. That's a problem for me. So at this time, this is the 1945. Communist countries' productivity was low because they were they were the word I'm looking for is they were adopting. That's the thank you, Lord. They were adopting this thought of that the government owns everything, and then we'll dole out to who we think is worthy according to what we think they need. But what ended up happening is the government became terribly inefficient and wasteful. The thing that they thought it would foster in people, it did not. um, but over that was in Russia. Over here in the United States in the 1950s, we were booming as a consumer goods country. In most parts of our country. Now, in the South and in urban cities, it was not. They were poor, but in other areas, we were booming. So we say that to say that some 40 years after, I'll read what it says. Some 40 years after the World War II, Russian communism collapsed because the system proved unworkable. At some point, you're going to have to get common people on board. That's the thing about oligarchies and anarchy and all these big ideas at the top, is that you can't have anything at the top without the people on the bottom. And once we realize that, and the people on top realize that it can be evenly shared, you don't have to hoard everything up here and then just dole out, ration it out to people because you don't believe that they're worthy. It's never going to work. I don't care what type of breath and how loud you roar. It is not going to work, because I have said it time and time again. Man has never and will never be meant to rule and have dominion over another man. God created man in his image with the gift of free will. You cannot control or dominate or claim your rule over another human being. He gave man dominion over animals and birds of the fowls of the air, birds of the air, and fowls of the air and of the sea, but not over humans. That's not what's happening here. And I think that's where things get confusing for those who think that they are going to be able to contain and dominate over human beings. Okay, so here we go. So this is at the time of 1946, when the 33rd president, Harry S. Truman, asked the former prime minister, Winston Churchill, to come to the Westminster College in Fulton, Missouri. Churchill went and he talked about that Russian communism. He talked about how Russia was the ally of Britain and the United States, and no people fought harder. Now, Russia fought hard against the Nazis, it says. Again, y'all, I'm reading for the book. I have not gone and studied and researched. I'm reading. I bought the book, so I'm reading from the book. Okay, and this is the authority or knowledge that I'm using. So it says that they nobody fought harder than them to end the attack of the Nazis. No nation suffered war losses as enormous as Russia's. When the war ended, everyone hoped for friendship between Russia and America. Around the world, many people believe that Russian communism was an acceptable form of government for Russia, not for anywhere else. But here's where things they kind of let stuff fall into the cracks. Winston Churchill said, "I do not believe that Soviet Russia desires war. What they desire is the fruits of war and the indefinite expansion of their power and doctrines. I am convinced that there is nothing they admire so much as strength, and there is nothing for which they have less respect for than weakness, especially military weakness." Um, yeah, it's history can be enlightening and also and just uh almost like in just an ending for me. Like, it's to think that there was a time when people were okay. And the reason I'm coming to this is because There was such a thing as a curtain of iron was blocking out truth and freedom. Nations behind the curtain were prisoners of Russia. So they created prisoners out of their own people, their own citizens. I'm going to show you the picture. I'm going to see if I can. When I get really good at this, I'm going to be able to let y'all see. Let me turn it this way. Maybe y'all can see. This is the image of the Iron Curtain. All of this is USSR and how they imprisoned their own people. And then this is the rest of the continent. Their own people, their own country, their own citizens, people who had pledged allegiance to this country, imprisoned them. That's why I called it a blinded view. You have to be careful about how you allow people to anyone obstruct your view. You have been given the ability to look for truth yourself and seek it out. That's all I'm saying. This was lesson 7, a blinded view. God bless y'all.